Hi, and welcome to the Sequire Spotlight. I'm Carmel Fisher, and today we're giving you a roundup of the recent Q3 earnings season. With me, I have Saundra Pelletier, CEO and President of Evofem, with the ticker EVFM. Sandra, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Always exciting speaking with you. Just to recap, please give us an intro on who Evofem is and also your role in the company.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Evofem Biosciences is a company that is innovating in women's healthcare, and specifically in two categories: contraception and prevention of sexually transmitted infections. Our first product that was approved by the FDA just over a year ago is called Phexxi, Phexxi, and it is the first and it is the only non-hormonal birth control that women use only when they need it. And it's very exciting because there is 23 million women in the United States that will not use hormonal birth control. And then when you talk about preventing sexually transmitted infections, there are also no products indicated for the prevention of chlamydia or gonorrhea. And those will be our next two indications we will add to the Phexxi label. And so I'm excited to be the CEO of the organization because I am a staunch believer in choice, and certainly a staunch believer that women deserve innovation, particularly in the category of contraception.
Excellent and wonderful initiative indeed. Can you touch on some of the company's strengths?
Our first strength is in the asset. So since 1960, the market has been dominated by hormones. Women will tell you they do not have sex every day. Women will tell you that just because something has always been done one way doesn't make it the right way. And they will say, I don't have hormones in my milk. I don't have hormones in my meat. I don't have hormones in my makeup. Why am I putting a synthetic hormone in my body every single day if I'm having side effects? So the number one strength is that Rush University in Chicago developed this asset in the early 90s. And what they knew is that it had these microbicidal properties. So not only would it prevent women from getting pregnant with no hormones, it would also prevent women from getting chlamydia and gonorrhea. The biggest strength is innovation. It has been decades since someone has come out with a new innovation. Companies come out with just different delivery systems of more hormones. So the biggest strength is that we are really actually innovating, and women love that. And OBGYNs who prescribe the product love that. But the other strength is the people. And that might sound like an obvious statement, but in our organization, it is made up of, so we have 75% of our sales force are women. They've all had very terrible side effects from hormonal birth control. And the men who work in the organization have women in their lives, whether it's their sisters or their partners or their daughters, who have also experienced serious side effects that people don't talk about. It's not just one day a month. They are consistent and pervasive. So the people here are passionate about changing this category forever and offering women better choices.
Excellent initiative. Apart from the strengths, of course, there are always the flip side to that. And can you then highlight some of the issues that may be affecting the company's performance at this stage?
Yes, I would tell you this, that our stock price is, our company is incredibly undervalued. And the reason our company is undervalued is we had to make a decision. When we launched our product, there is a legislative mandate in the United States as it pertains to the category of contraception. That mandate says that one product in every category in contraception gets covered at zero out-of-pocket pay. Zero. Our product does not have its own category yet because there's no category for us to fit in because we're the only product with no hormones that women use on demand. So until we get our own category, we knew we had to build a base of prescribers, and we knew we had to get loyalists who would refill their prescriptions. So we chose to give women a copay card to buy her prescription down to zero. Well, the negative impact was that it hurt our revenues and it hurt our gross to net. We were very open about that with investors. Now, investors didn't like it. They were impatient, but we said to them, we need to build the base. And once it's built, we're going to flip a switch. We're going to convert from the copay plan. And then you're going to start seeing a gross to net improvement and a revenue improvement. And today I'm here to tell you that we have already started those initiatives. For the fourth quarter of this year, we will hit consensus for the first time. So we will hit consensus, gross to net is already improved, and we will have the best quarter ever. In the third quarter of this year, we delivered 19,000 prescriptions. In the fourth quarter, we are on target to deliver well over 30,000 prescriptions. So the negative is that we did choose to suffer on revenue and gross to net until we built our base, but those days are over. You are going to start seeing very positive change starting when we announce our fourth quarter earnings. So we're very excited about that. And you're the first person to hear about it because we just got all the numbers in yesterday, and we wanted to make sure that we shared it with you because we want investors to know that they can trust what we say. And yes, it has been tough for them to be patient, but for those investors that are in and the ones that come in now, it's going to pay off.
100%. And thank you so much for sharing that with us as one of the first to hear it. I do believe that as a leader, and our company can attest to this, is there are teething pains, if one can call it that, or growing pains. And the loyalty of the market and shareholders is really so important, especially in this product that you're developing and the biggest scale impact it's going to have for the good of all women. So I do hope we get that message across really clearly today.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, and the other thing, just to add, and I won't be too verbose, is that we also said on our last earning call, but I'd like to reiterate it, that to your point, right, Carmel, is that an investment is required in order to build a base. And we were an invisible company with an invisible asset. So we made a big investment in 2021 with a wonderful campaign with a celebrity called Annie Murphy. And yes, it wasn't expensive. Yes, it was worth it. We built a very strong base, but we are now going to reduce our OPEX by more than $50 million next year. And even in the third quarter, our quarterly expenses have decreased by over $10 million. So when investors are modeling what they should expect from Evofem, they should know that the Q4 expenses have dramatically declined, and that's going to continue all through next year.
Wonderful, wonderful. Are there any exciting new products in the works or on the horizon?
Well, the biggest thing is the prevention of chlamydia and gonorrhea. And I have to tell you that what continues to shock me is that for the sixth year in a row, chlamydia is on the rise, 1.8 million cases. Gonorrhea is on the rise, over 600,000 cases. And gonorrhea is antibiotic resistant. So the FDA gave us a fast track review, 6-month review instead of 12 months. And they also gave us something called QIDP, Qualified Infectious Disease Prevention. So we get 5 additional years exclusivity in the market. So we already have patent exclusivity through 2033, but this will be 5 additional years. And why it's exciting, even though it's the same product, is that it doubles our market opportunity. And here's why. So if I say to you, Carmel, that there's 23 million women that won't use hormones, there's still an extraordinary amount of women that will use hormones. And we say, that's great, but you can still get chlamydia and gonorrhea. So once we get those indications, our product will be, of course, for the Phexxi users for contraception, but also payers have told us that they will cover Phexxi for women who are on other contraceptive products to help them prevent getting chlamydia and gonorrhea. So we're very excited about that.
Wonderful. How do your products and services then compare to any existing, and of those, the largest competitors out there?
Well, here's what I would say is that I know it seems a little idealistic and perhaps slightly delusional to say we don't really have any competition. So here's what I would tell you, that our biggest competition is inaction, to be frank. And what I mean by that is this, is that out of the 23 million women who will not use hormones, half of those are doing nothing at all, which means they're not going to their doctor. So we are activating them to use telemedicine as a platform to get their prescription, or igniting them to go back into their doctor's office. So what I would say is that there is no non-hormonal product that you only use when you need it. So our product you put in right before sex or within an hour. Nothing else is like that on the market. Everything else has hormones or is a copper IUD that has to be put in by a doctor or taken out by a doctor. What I would say to you, though, is that when you think about the competitive landscape that exists, I would tell you this. women who want to use hormones are not women we target. They are not the Phexxi woman. But there are 30% of women on birth control pills who are converting over to Phexxi because what they're saying is that taking something every day is not realistic. Women typically forget 3 to 4 pills a month. And so now that they have an option that they use on demand, it's exciting. But the crazy thing is that it's really tough for me to tell you who our competitors are. I would tell you this, though, that if we had access to a broad portfolio like some of our competitors have, that would probably be more advantageous. But what we're doing instead is we're talking to companies that are one product companies that have a product that focuses on OBGYNs and they don't have a commercial footprint. And we are identifying which would be the right product to put in our bag so we have another product to call on OBGYNs with.
Excellent. And to the point of certain women still using hormones, does that boil down to just more of an educational campaign that needs to go out to inform them of, the potential pitfalls of going with the hormonal route?
Yes. And you know what? Thank you for saying that, because that kind of intuitive question or statement is really, I think, at the core of the issue. And what I mean by that is that even now, women don't know how their bodies work. They really don't. They're not taught it at school. Their mothers don't know, so their mothers can't teach them. And so understanding, I'll give you one example that really hits what you said. We now are getting a groundswell of young women who are going back to college now that colleges have opened up. And they're saying to us, when I went away to school, my mother put me on the pill so I wouldn't get pregnant. Well, then I started crying for no reason. Well, then I started having anxiety. Well, then they put me on an antidepressant, or they put me on an anti-anxiety product. And finally, they figured out it was my birth control that I don't even need every day that was making me not feel like myself. So educating women that when you don't feel as good as you should look at everything you're doing, but including your birth control, because sometimes it's not even obvious. They think, well, my mother took the pill for 30 years, so it must be okay. But educating them that hormones do have implications and they do have side effects. And the side effects sometimes, depending on your own body chemistry, can be very devastating.
Oh, absolutely. And I can attest to that. And I think for my personal journey, it was not so much as feeling the effects whilst on the hormones for very similar reasons. My mom said, well, you're a big girl now. It's best. This is the safest way. However, when I got to an age after about 13 years of being on that contraception, I discovered that I did not want to have this antibody within me because I felt like my body should be taking care of itself naturally. And so when I stopped that is when I discovered the real effects that my body had to kind of wean itself off those hormones. And that is when it was a big depressive state that I entered into for 2 years, and I had no idea what was happening to me. I just was really emotional, etc. And that for me was the sign that what was in my body was so anti what my body's made up of, that the weaning process from that was so extreme. And that would then just kind of telltale what the effects are of having that inside your body in the first place.
Oh, thank you. You know what? Thank you for saying that, because it is true. You're right. It's not just the overt side effects, right? It's the weaning process. To your point, when you realize, oh my goodness, this must have really been impacting me every day because it's taken so long. And by the way, when women do want to get pregnant and they've been on hormones for 10 or 15 years, their doctors say they have to flush out their body. And by the way, a lot of women are starting to be worried now that what will taking a hormone for 5 or 10 or 15 years do to their ability to get pregnant when they want to, because IVF is very costly emotionally, financially, physically. And so a lot of women, to your point, Carmel, say, I want my body to be in its natural state. And so because we have no systemic activity whatsoever, none of those circulating hormones are happening in your body. So it helps women stay and feel natural as they should.
Very, very true. And another point just to my story is that mine was primarily because I had inconsistent menstrual cycles. And so they try to align that with a contraceptive at a very young age where I was not even having sex. And so absolute wrong reasons, I think, to put a young girl on a contraceptive that she would then have to be reliant on for multiple years. So that's another use case, I think, for us to address as a society. You know, what are we educating kids on, and what quick fixes are we instilling that have these long-lasting implications?
Agree. Totally agree. You are 100% right.
Well, I'm really very passionate about this product, as you can tell with my personal story. But nonetheless, I want to bring this conversation back to EVFM. And can you touch then on the company's bottom line performance just for our viewers here?
Yes, of course. So where we are today is that we basically are at a place where we are now just beginning in our Q4 numbers to build the kind of momentum needed. As I said, we are going to generate over 30,000 prescriptions in the fourth quarter. Our expenses have declined by $10 million in this quarter, and we are going to hit consensus. In fact, we're going to well exceed consensus. So for the fourth quarter, our consensus numbers were 2.6 million. We are going to easily exceed that by natural demand and go far beyond it. So what you're going to start seeing, our earnings call is March 3rd, but we do intend to do an early look letter in January to start showing shareholders, and even release some information tomorrow to start showing shareholders that you are going to start seeing us hit our revenue projections. And we haven't yet given any formal guidance yet, but we do intend to do that starting on our next earnings call. So investors who are listening to this should know that the tide has turned in the positive direction, that not only are we now growing scripts, which we've always done even in COVID, but we've now improved gross to net and increased revenue. So we're excited. And the other thing, Carmel, is to say is that we also have a lot of partners that are in our data room right now as we speak, looking at ex-US rights, which will bring an upfront, non-dilutive payment, as well as royalties and milestones that will also add to our overall cash flow.
Sounds all very promising. Well, you've mentioned the COVID virus, and of course we are all on edge again with the new Omicron variant coming into play. How do you foresee that impacting your business as it currently stands?
I will tell you that it has been, it has really been difficult. And here's why it's been difficult. There are offices and states that are impacted differently. So we actually had to realign our zip codes and move sales reps or transition out sales reps when offices were closed. We couldn't pay somebody to sit home. We don't have that luxury, nor is that good business sense, frankly. So, but COVID has impacted us in a way where we've had to be much more creative and much more disciplined and really figure out new and different ways to target these doctors. So one way, for example, is we've been very, very successful at providing CME credits to doctors to educate them on Phexxi. We've also been successful at really trying to get doctors, their entire office, to come outside, listen to talks, listen to updates, hear about Phexxi. And interestingly, many of our OBGYNs say that they're not even seeing any other reps. They're not even seeing any other sales forces. And so what's been great is that it's a little bit like taking candy from a baby. You know what I mean by that?
Right.
You're the only game in town, you know, I mean, it's not hard. But what's good is that our reps, interestingly, have really been creative, you know, and they're not aggressive, they're assertive, which has been effective. So I would tell you this. It is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, and reps have to be very creative and find new ways to get the focus of the doctors. But nurse practitioners and midwives are a big prescribing base for us. And interestingly, they are a little easier and a little more interested in talking to our sales force because they're very focused on patient-centered care, right? And so they want to know all the information. And so I guess, truthfully, if you have to be selling something in COVID, being in women's health, particularly calling on a women's healthcare specialist, it's been a little easier.
Wonderful news. Okay, I want to give you the opportunity now to leave our viewers with the 3 key takeaways of this interview.
Thank you for that. There are moments in time when categories change forever. And they change forever because an innovation is introduced that upsets the entire apple cart. A paradigm shift happens. We are in that moment. COVID has allowed women to think about how they feel. They've taken a beat. They've been working from home, and they look at their quality of life. Having something non-hormonal that they only use when they have sex is game-changing for women. So we have the innovation. Number two, we now have built a base of prescriptions that is impressive by anybody's standards, over 30,000 prescriptions in the fourth quarter. But number three, the most important, what investors have been waiting for is for us to deliver revenue and improve our gross to net. And that moment is now. It is happening. And they will start seeing that from this point forward. And we are grateful for the people who have been patient. We are excited about the people who will see that we're undervalued and want to be part of this story because we have nowhere to go but up. But I would tell you that this product is game-changing and worth it. And this company knows how to deliver because we've built a base. And I want to thank you for the opportunity because we're excited to now start telling people you're going to get everything you want, the scripts and the revenue. So thank you, Carmel, for asking and letting me do those 3 points.
Of course, and you're very welcome. Saundra Pelletier, thank you so much. This was the Q3 earnings season roundup, and you're listening to Carmel Fisher on the Sequire Spotlight.